I get
Yeah,
it.
man. Okay, guys and girls, we're here. HW Postgame number one, brought to you by High and Wide Radio. I'm Jim here as always with Jack, where we talk all things Philadelphia Flyers. No guest, no Kyle for this episode. Kind of a last minute thing. Let's do a post game. Make sure you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Full Press Coverage app, and brand new partner, Belly Up Sports. Make sure you guys check out bellyupsports.com. Go to podcast. You'll be able to find HW Radio on there as well. Very excited to team up with those guys. Or you can listen to us on hwhockey.net. Find some articles, scroll back a little bit. Let's dive right in here. We're going to talk post game. Flyers were just defeated by the New Jersey Devils. And Jack, what are we watching? Are we watching Is Dave Hackstall still the coach of this team? What is going on?
It really feels like it, doesn't it? Like it is everything we've seen during that era, and that's what scares me the most because we've removed Hackstall. We removed Hextall. We removed the quote unquote, bad goaltending, and it's exactly the same crap that we've dealt with, and that tells you it's the core. And I don't want to come right out and be like, "Oh, Giroux needs to go." I'm not that guy, but like, it is unbelievable. It's embarrassing how bad they've been right now, and to see them go down 1-0 right away, you're like, "All right, are you serious?" They get on the power play, they tie it. You're like, "Okay, all right." Sometimes the other team scores first. This is fine. Then they get scored on again, and it was the way it happened at the end of the first period with no time left. A stupid play that should have just never happened. Well, then they had one of the best penalty kills I've ever seen in the regards that they had so many chances. And Jesus, were they snake bitten? I mean, Couture could have literally had a hat trick tonight. He rings it dead on off the post, and you're just like, oh, it's going to be one of those nights, But then they stopped some stuff, and then that final goal, the third goal by Sharapova, I believe his name is.
Yeah, Sharangovich or whatever the hell, some weird
Sharapova,
Belarusian.
whatever. Yeah. Well, the killer on that one was Myers had just made a phenomenal play to break up what could have been like a short breakaway. Like he really needed to be on point with his stick, and he was. And then he makes an ill-advised pass. His teammates didn't give him anywhere to go with it, but he should have just like pinned it up against the boards or something. And instead he tried passing it away. It's a quick, easy turnover. Bing, bang, boom. It's in the back of the net. Much as it's been all season. It's turnover city. It's ridiculous. It's embarrassing. And even then the bleeding can't stop. Like they got to give up another one. And here comes their last-ditch desperation effort at the end of the night, and they fall short by one goal. And it just was poetic to see Giroux try to rip a shot and just obliterate his stick, and the puck like squirts a couple inches in front of him for an easy dump, and that's the end of the game. And it's like I think about who we lost to, and it's like it's the Devils. I know they're playing better. This was a predicted last-place team. They're better than Buffalo. Them and the Rangers, we expected to, nip at your heels a little bit. And maybe I didn't even think the Devils would be a pesky out, but they've had some players like Ty Smith and Jack Hughes and Blackwood, obviously, like kind of step up. And all that being said, us versus them, we're better on paper by a country mile. We've beaten them twice already. What happened?
It doesn't make sense, man. It's like let's talk about the turnovers for a second here. So the first goal, who turned that puck over? The play came through the neutral zone, right? They had a lot of space. It didn't end up being a quick 2-on-1 down low. It was a nice cross-ice pass. I think it was Michael McLeod who ended up scoring that first goal. I don't know. What was that, the first 5 minutes of the game? They gave up a penalty as well. Yeah. Power play the first 30 seconds into the game. Farabee, of course, a lone bright spot in the early parts of that game, scoring his 14th goal of the year. Kid's the real deal. But then the second goal, a turnover. I believe that was the goal where Hayes tried to glove the puck down, and him and Ghost kind of, got caught up with each other. One pass, goal, down 2-1. I believe the very next goal.
Seconds left.
Yeah, it's a backbreaker. The way this team's playing right now, and the way they all kind of seem to be, as soon as they go down, the heads go down, the shoulders hunch a little bit. It's all it takes is a late goal against this team, and you pretty much beat them.
That's how weak they are.
Yep. And then, of course, that Myers turnover.
Ugh.
I'm not sure what is supposed to happen there. I mean, they had a guy, the Devils had a player down low behind the net. They had a guy covering the wall there. Not sure where Myers was supposed to go with the puck, but he went backwards. Ended up being a turnover. Bang. One pass right in front of Hart, goal. You could, so here's the thing as well. On all three of those goals, Hart was beat clean. Didn't stand a chance on any of the goals, in my opinion. Just hung out to dry completely. I didn't see the fourth goal, but those three goals were just pathetic. I don't know how else to describe. Great if you're a Devils fan. If you're a Flyers fan, it's like, this is just a crime to let this happen to your goalie.
Well, that's kind of been my thing all year. You know, it's been so much on, you know, I don't want to say it's all on Hart, but so many people have been so quick to jump all over Hart. And it's like, guys, I get it. He's not having a good year, and he's young. He's a young goalie. He'll figure things out eventually, you'd think. Maybe not this year, the way things are going, but like this defense, it is like on par with the Phillies bullpen last year, which was, if you remember, historically one of the worst in all of baseball. So this defense is probably on par. It's tough with the 80s, there being so many goals, but probably on par for something very similar. Like, they're that embarrassingly bad. They have, I mean, if you ask me, Ghost is like a top 4 or maybe even top 3 defenseman on this team. That's saying something about the rest of the defensive core. Like, it is Provorov. You can make an argument for Sanheim. I know he's made a lot of mistakes, but he's been pretty decent at times as well. Again, not saying much. Then Ghost. Then maybe Myers. And I don't even know about that because he can barely stay in the lineup. You saw the mistakes he's made. He makes one good play, makes 8 bad plays. He pinches when he shouldn't pinch. You know, Braun has become a little bit more steady, but he's still not good. He's still slow as molasses, and that's a problem.
All right.
He's still he'll try to throw the puck on net, it'll get blocked, and he immediately starts heading backwards because he's got to get it's like a train. He's got to get moving, otherwise he's going to get blown by. Yeah. It was Hag's out, so it don't matter. Gustafson's completely useless. I mean, what does he bring to the table? I mean, we're not scoring. He's not doing much, and he don't play defense. Who would I miss? Like, who's left at this point?
Take your pick, man, really.
Add your Prosser or whoever the hell else jumps in. And now they got games coming up against Rangers, Sabres, Islanders, Bruins, and Bruins. I see one win in that. I wouldn't be surprised if went 0-25 at this point.
You know, before the broadcast, Jim Jackson was talking about the next couple games, and he had mentioned that they need to come away with 8 points, at least 7 out of the possible 10. They just gave away 2. Now they have to go on a run here. They got to win 4 in a row in order to get 8 points here. And I don't foresee that happening. Do you?
They got the Islanders and Boston coming up. They got like the Rangers and Buffalo mixed in there. They can't beat the Rangers. They might get lucky in a close game, or they ain't blowing them out or nothing. They could probably beat Buffalo. But other than that, they got like 2 against the Islanders and 2 against the Bruins. Like, come on. Even if this team was playing at its best, they couldn't beat the Bruins. Like, this is over. Like, come on. They're absolute dog shit. I cannot wait to see the Fletcher's press conference tomorrow. What could he say at this point? I mean, we know it's going to be typical, upper management jargon. We're excited about the what the scheme can be, and we're trending in the right direction. Like, anybody actually believes that shit.
Yeah.
You might as well put the Swedish chef on there or saying nothing.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a joke. I can't wait to see what he says. Like, because I'm hoping there's like a hint of something. There probably won't be. He's probably like prepping for it all week about like, how do I dance around everything. And I don't know if he's taking questions. They usually do after his little, thing. I don't know if anybody can or will ask anything legit, because they honestly should be like, do you feel like you failed the offseason, or do you feel embarrassed, or should you pay fans to come to the stadium? I don't think they're going to ask anything like that, but they should.
Dude, that's where he messed up. And I think I've used the whole chef analogy before. If you're the chef and you go out and buy subpar ingredients, you're going to have a shit product. And that's exactly what we're watching now. As the GM, everything you do will have an effect on the organization. It affects the way the coach coaches the team. It affects the way the players play the game. And I mean, if you want to use the Eagles, we saw it with the Eagles, with Howie Roseman and how he set the roster up, didn't help out players that needed help. He's not doing Hart any favors by going out and signing assholes like Eric Gustafson and playing Shane Gossesbear in top 4 minutes. Nate Prosser, giving away Mark Friedman, who, not that Friedman's a top 4 guy, but he's a serviceable bottom pairing guy. Maybe he was in the doghouse. Who knows the story that happened with that? Who the hell else is getting bottom pairing minutes? Robert Haig. You mentioned Braun's been playing better of late. It seems like he plays well with Travis Sanheim, but let's face it. Do we really want Braun playing top 4 minutes? I don't think we do, right?
We tried that at the beginning of the season, and even though we were winning, they took it away because they knew it was a bad idea. I hate to say it, but Ghost has to play with Provorov. There is, just for the sense of consistency.
Just keep the pairings together at the very least now.
Yeah,
it's like,
at least let him, I think you have to go Ghost Provorov, Sanheim Myers. Jeez.
Myers is struggling.
Braun and insert player. Gus, I guess. I really prefer not be him, but what choices do you have? You add Ekholm tomorrow, which is not going to happen. But no. I don't think that changes anything. I think maybe they go to overtime tonight because it's the Devils. But are they beating the Islanders? Are they not losing 9-0 to the Rangers? No, there's no way. They might overall slowly improve, but ultimately, this is a mentality thing with the team. This is a team not having an identity. The fact that they never hit anybody or do anything like that and take care of each other. It takes a guy who never fights, who just beat cancer. He's probably thinking, I beat cancer, I could fight for this team.
Yeah,
nobody else will. They look like a bunch of guys who have decided that the season's over. They're just not all of them. Like Couturier is still playing. Obviously, Farabee is still playing. JVR is kind of
he's going back to his streak. He's streaking the other way right now.
More than we thought he would. So it's hard to get on him.
Yeah,
Provorov's okay. It's hard. People are going to blame the goalies all day long, but I don't know very many goalies who do good in front of this defense. And confident. You brought up a good point earlier when you said about the confidence of the team, and with the Eagles was your example. One example I think of. You remember a former first overall pick quarterback when the Houston Texans first came in the league? His brother currently plays. David Carr, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So pretty solid quarterback. We'll never know. Yeah, because they had such a horrible offensive line that he was constantly running for his life. You know? And I know he went elsewhere, was a backup and what have you, but I
get your point, yeah.
When you have no confidence, you can talk to an analytical person who never really played, and they're like, no, he sucks. He's bad. His footwork's bad. This is bad. I'm like, having played sports, when you're playing well and you have all the confidence in the world versus having zero confidence, it is night and day.
Yep.
Day how you produce and how much better you are, or if you're playing goal, how good you are. Your angles are there. Everything's just working for you. You got tunnel vision, And I think that's true with Hart, and even you're gonna see it with Elliott soon. He had a pretty good game the other night, only giving up 2 goals in a game the Flyers should have won. They just could not. They just can't. They just can't finish. Nolan Patrick, 2 prime opportunities. Hey, great, he's playing great. Yeah, well, if the puck don't go in the back of net, what's it matter? I don't want him to be the next Sam Gagner. He's got all the moves in the world, but he can't finish. So it's just, I don't know.
Here's a question for you, Jack, from Mama Mia 7. Thanks for tuning in, Mama Mia. Should Carter Hart have to earn his starts?
The only way I think Carter Hart could earn a start is if he goes out and trades for a defenseman. If he does that, then he's earned his start. Because when I look at this team, I'm not looking at goalie. I'm looking at D. You look at this game tonight, you think that was Hart's fault? Could he have made a miraculous save? You'd hope so. We hope he's that goalie. You hope that he is above and beyond. I know at this point we'll accept the bare minimum, but all 4 of those goals, dude, that was the defense. They're leaving everybody wide open. That 4th goal was tic-tac-toe. And they had all day. They were guide the point all day. He got the puck, turned around, came back, passed it to a wide open guy who passed it to another wide open guy for a tip in. How can you blame that on Hart? It has Hart been bad this season? 100%. 100%. My point is confidence is shit. You're not going to fix anything unless you bring Dominic Hasek in from the late 90s back. You got to fix the defense. First and foremost, fix the defense.
So and sorry for that Twitter notification there. Here's a question for you, Jack. So earlier today on Twitter, I believe I saw that the Nashville Predators would be open to trading defenseman Ryan Ellis, right-handed D. I mean, we all know who he is, very good player. He's currently hurt. Now, the Flyers, the way they look right now, they're not going to make a cup run, right? They're not going to make any noise in the playoffs, not going to be doing much. Would it make sense for them to trade for an injured player in preparation for next year?
In my mind, absolutely. From what I heard, the price on Ekholm is getting to the point where, and the Flyers are one of these teams where they're just like, really, for Ekholm? Okay. That being said, what are your thoughts on Ryan Ellis? Because if you're going to give up that much, and you might as well, because the Flyers can't afford to wait. So if they can't get a guy like Ekholm in, then they might as well say, all right, well, we really are going to punt on the season and we'll look towards next year getting better. And Ellis is significantly better than Ekholm, and I would be all about that. I don't know what the price would be. I wanted to look up his contract situation, but if they are truly saying screw it this season, and after a game like tonight, I don't know how you can't. We'll see what Fletcher says tomorrow, but the fact that they're already having those discussions is telling me that's the mindset they got. I think half the team has that mindset. I think they punted on the season. They don't care. I don't see it. And there's Jim Jackson, who I love. He's a treasure. But that's 2 games or 3 games and 4 nights. The entire league is doing this. Like, stop already. Like it's a joke. Like, and Konechny was he was responsible for a few open guys, especially on the first goal. That's the Flyers jersey I saw next to the guy who scored. It was Konechny. It was like. And I believe he had something to do with the third goal too, or maybe it was the second. He just kind of stopped playing defense. He just, he thinks he's Russian, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. And there's a lot of there's a lot of issues on this team, and they're going to need the best defenseman available. They're just going to need the better defenseman, whether he's available or not. We'll see, because it's going to go to the offseason and the whole Seattle thing and the flat cap, and Fletcher needs to figure it out. He needs to get through this season, and he needs to do what's best for the team going forward. Doing some kind of Band-Aid fix on this season, there's way too many holes and not enough Band-Aids.
Flyers are currently giving up the 4th most goals against in the entire NHL. The Nashville Predators at the moment are having a lot of trouble scoring goals with just 77 goals in 32 games. For a negative 26 goal differential. The Flyers are not much better, believe it or not, at negative 14. So I think if I'm Chuck, I'm exploring all possibilities. You look at this roster, offensively, they're talented. Defensively, they need a lot of help. And something is wrong with the way that with the team defense. I don't know. So there's been a lot of talk about coaches lately, right? And for whatever reason, AV keeps getting floated out there. But I think, let me ask you, Jack, who's in charge of the defense? We know, right? The same guy that's in charge of the power play that sucks, Michel Therrien. Why aren't we talking about, why is he still here? Why is he here?
I have no idea. I really don't. I mean, this is going back to last year. We had a bad power play. Defense was better because of Niskanen, but if you have to show that you give a shit to your fan base, and the guy's not really doing anything, pull the trigger. Who's it hurting? Only us keeping him. Move on, because AV shouldn't be floated. As we've seen with your Hackstall comment earlier, it's not the coaching, it's the core. So send somebody out of here who's not doing their job. Because I haven't been all that upset with Mike Yeo. He was better last year. But if I have to choose, it's easy. I don't even think twice. Terry, he's out. Come on. We didn't even like signing at the time. He was here because he had been a head coach a couple of times. Ultimately, he failed. When Pittsburgh fired him and brought in Dan Balsma, I think that was his name, they won the cup. They fired Terrian, brought in this other guy, and won the cup. And then Yao was on that coaching staff too that won the cup.
Yep. It's not working with Terrian.
I don't know what he wants. Like, they hated him in Montreal. Like, he's been a head coach or whatever. Maybe they're friends. I don't know. But a head has to roll after how horrible this has been. And it's going to be tougher you can't make any of those player for player trades they used to make back in the 90s. Like, the flat cap, the salary cap in general, like, you just can't do that. You can't send a message like that. For those of you who saw Moneyball, you can't just go trade Jeremy Giambi and just say, "Oh, I'm pissed off." Like, you just can't do that. Like, it's not a thing. You can fire an assistant coach, because ultimately what he's doing is two of the biggest weaknesses with the team. They didn't have a power play goal tonight, but we know where they're at this season. And my light just went off. So I think it's an easy one, to show your fan base that you give a shit. Now, he's not going to do that and then have a press conference. I think we'll have the press conference. We'll break that down, and then and then we'll see. Because he's not going to make a trade either.
So here's a question from Manny before we get to a little bit more Ryan Ellis and Michelle Terrian. Will ownership pressure Chuck Fletcher in a bid to sell tickets for next year? Is that motivation enough to overturn the roster? How worried are they about fan apathy? That's very interesting. And I think there's a couple factors that could play into this, because, I mean, the fans really haven't been allowed to watch this team live for just about over a year now. I mean, sure, fans are allowed in, but they got to pay an arm and a leg for a ticket to watch this team suck, right? Let's suppose that everything kind of goes back to normal starting next season. If you're a fan and you want to watch the Flyers, you're probably going to pay for a ticket, right? At least for the first month. What do you think about this question? Do you think they go out and overturn the roster a little bit, get some excitement in the building, or do you think, I don't know, I mean, corporate fans are going to come watch the Flyers, right? We love the team, we love the game. How do you think they go into next season, Jack? Do you think they make moves in preparation for next year? Art, do you think they give a shit about fans? What?
Honestly, I don't. Not if Ed Snyder were here, different story. But Dave Scott, please. Like, I mean, I understand he doesn't want to do what Hextall was doing, but I don't. I think because hockey has been away and you haven't been able to freely, either tailgate, which I did. I know it's more of a football thing, but I would tailgate a Flyers game, and you haven't had the packed house and all that stuff. And they're adding all the stuff like they added so much to that place. It's great. I love going to those games. People are going to rush back. It's just the atmosphere. It's the other thing. Like, it's the atmosphere. It's being there. It's all that. They're not going to have any issues getting people coming back in the building. From a team building perspective, should Fletcher do something, and will he, are two different things. Should he? Absolutely. We all know that he should. Will he? I don't know. I don't know if he has balls to. Like, we've never seen him really break anything down. We see a pure issue with the core of this team, and he has an opportunity to offload a guy like Jake Voracek. You cry all you want about where those points are going to come from. They'll find a way. With the 8.25 that they save from that, if they ship him to Seattle, they will find a way. But the main thing is the defense. We all know it. They're going to let guys like Gus walk. They're probably going to dangle Ghost somewhere and see what they can get for him. Patrick's another name that can probably be, dangled as well. They're going to hope Hart bounces back. They're probably going to retain Elliott. And everybody else is still going to be in place, at least for one more year. And they're going to march forward, and they will add. They have to add. They have to make player for player deals. Konechny's another name. I think it would not surprise me if he was traded. Honest to God, at Sanheim or Myers, at this point in the season, I lean Myers. I would not be surprised if he was traded either. They have to do something significant. And if we walked into next season and names like Voracek, Myers, and Konechny were no longer with the team, maybe even Patrick, would not shock me. Not all four. I can't see Fletcher going. I don't have enough faith in him to do that. But two of the four, I could definitely see that being a thing.
Yeah. So I just don't know. I'm not even sure. I mean, real hockey people will know. If the Flyers go out and get a guy, like Ryan Ellis, they know that this team's in better shape than they are now, but he's not, he would be the typical guy, like a sneaky signing, I almost feel like, because around the league, you hear Ryan Ellis and you're like, who is that? He's a good guy. He's a good player, but he's not a star. He's not this. And you know what? It's kind of the same thing for Ekholm, because before this season, nobody was talking about Matthias Ekholm. But it's like, oh, he's available. He's the top D man available. Let's go get him. Nobody knows who he really is. He's a good player. Like, people who watch hockey know who Matthias Ekholm is. They know who Ryan Ellis is. In my opinion here, and this is, people might not like this, but I think they should take a pass on Ekholm. I think his price is going to be driven sky high. I think they should start looking for next year. And, Ellis, so here's the thing with Ryan Ellis. He's 30 years old, and he comes with a cap hit for $6.25 million at least until 2026, 27. So what is that? 6 years, 5 years? Let me see here. Sorry about that. Yeah, so 2026, 2027. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more seasons at 6.25. So if they were to try to acquire him, they're going to have to figure out what salary is going to go back the other way. Not sure what that's going to be. Ghost probably doesn't move the needle at all, but in terms of salary, that would be a huge chunk. I'm not going to try to put a trade together, but in my personal opinion, Ryan Ellis would be an awesome fit for this Flyers decor. He would essentially replace what Matt Niskanen was last year. Younger guy. Hopefully he sticks around longer. Hopefully he's, a little bit hungrier than Niskanen. Niskanen obviously won a cup, didn't have much to play for when it came to Philadelphia. For me, I would start looking towards next year, start thinking about next year, go get Ellis, and then make a free agent signing in the offseason or something. Because what are the odds we see 2 big trades? We know that's what they need, but if you go back and look at Chuck Fletcher's track record, not too many big moves under his resume, which, new GM, new team. It's like, okay, he's got a second chance here. Maybe he does things differently. If we're going to go based off what he did last offseason, kind of, walking around with his nuts in his hand, didn't make any moves. He was too afraid to, sign any big players because he didn't want to lose anybody in the expansion draft. He had all this COVID stuff. Looking back on all that, man, it's such like a scared, a fearful mentality, right? And it's like that kind of breeds complacency, and we're seeing it now, right? Like, instead of going out and going to get a guy, showing these guys, hey, we want to win, he went backwards and brought in Eric Gustafsson. If you're Claude Giroux and you see Eric Gustafsson instead of Matt Niskanen, you're like, Jesus Christ, what did he see in this guy? It's like, I don't know. I think some of these guys have to know that it's not happening this year, right? So if I'm Chuck, I'm already looking for next year. I'm making one big move now and then one more in the offseason. Are they just 2 moves away? I'm not sure. Maybe they need to bring in another coach, fix the defense a little bit. I'm trying not to overreact, right? So I'm going to say offensively, this team's fine, right? They have pieces. They just got to figure out the defensive aspects of the game. Fire the coach that's in charge of the defense and the power play. Bring in somebody fresh. Bring in somebody new. Obviously, it's not working out with Therrien. And go bring in two guys on how to play D. And only D. That can support Sanheim, Provorov. Let Myers figure it out a little bit, because I still don't think he's got the physical part down in the NHL. We heard a lot that he's very physical and dirty with the Phantoms, whatever you want to call it. Hasn't translated yet to the NHL. I think it will. I don't know. Sounds too easy. Obviously, it's not. Let's see what our buddy Chris McCarthy says right here. Is this going to show up here?
Yeah.
Okay, this is from Chris. All I want right now is Comcast to sell the team. I want ownership that cares about hockey, cares that his GM completely shit the bed, waiting on a guy 5 months who quit on team and then waste $3 million on Gustafsson, which Flyers already had Goss to spare. San Filippo just reported he balked at a trade with Colorado for fear of overpaying for Dan Girardi. Interesting. Did you hear anything about that?
No, I didn't even realize Dan
Was
Girardi was still in the NHL. To be honest with you,
huh?
I mean, if those are the
Dan
games,
Girardi.
he's really handcuffed. I mean, that sucks. Dan Girardi ain't doing shit.
That's who he's looking for right now.
If that's who he's looking for, like, if you're first off, you're talking to a team that's in playoff contention with cup admirations, like a true playoff contender, cup contender, and you're trying to get a defenseman off of them. They're giving you their excess, their bare bones. You have to talk to a team that's out of it, that actually has good defensemen, and they're looking to build towards next year. So the fact they're talking to Colorado is already a bad sign.
Yeah, I don't. Why would they want Dan Girardi?
He's
I
you know,
have no
38
idea.
years old. He only plays good when he's with McDonough, and even Tampa was like, "Okay, we're done. You're done, dude."
Like, I feel like Nashville's a pretty solid trade partner.
It makes sense. They have defensemen. They're out of the playoff hunt. They're going to rebuild. We have
Yeah.
pieces they need to rebuild. Everything makes sense. Colorado makes no sense.
No, I don't get that. I mean, the Flyers have a plethora of two-way forward prospects. I'm sure they can toss in a handful of those guys. Hell, if moving Morgan Frost in a deal gets you Ryan Ellis, he served a purpose. You know, he did all he did. He did all he could for the Flyers organization. He helped them land Ryan Ellis. They need to establish a decor. I think it's very evident. Something else I wanted to bring up, but I cannot remember what it was, Jack. Was there anything else you wanted to bring up about this game tonight or the current roster?
I mean, as far as the roster is concerned, they're going to have to do something with the core because the core of the team always gives these kind of performances. Let's think about it. They had that 9-0 shellacking, one of the worst games, probably the worst game in franchise history. They followed that up with a 3-0 lead against the Islanders, which we came on here and they couldn't wait to give that lead up.
Yeah.
Because of Lindblom, who's been playing better lately, and actually getting on the goals, the score sheet, they pulled that victory out. So you're like, okay, they got the win. It didn't go into overtime. They give the Islanders a point. Since then, they've been 0-3. It's like, is this a joke? Like, you gave us one win? But before that, since that, that was your comeback, and then you went right back to your bullshit, lose 6-1. Then I think what was the last game against
the
6-1.
A 6-1, 2 games after the 9-0. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, they lose in overtime, and it's like people want to hate on Farabee for that play. People want to hate on Ghost. I think they're both to blame. I mean, it's overtime, so you don't have as many people on the ice. You got to pass it to somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, Ghost, who doesn't grow on trees, can't handle a pass that kind of handcuffed him a little bit. We know Elliott's kind of slow side to side. It's a wraparound goal. Oh, we lose in overtime. They scored one goal that whole game. Like that wasn't even brought up. Nope. Like, come on, man. Elliott got you to overtime against one of probably the best team in the division right now without one of their best players. And then you come into New Jersey and we're like, okay, guys, we fucked up over the weekend. We only got 3 points out of 6, but we got blown out by the Rangers and screwed that shit up. So we need to get back on track. This is the game we get back on track to. And they lose. They were down the whole game. They looked terrible. Only the last effort gave them a chance in hell, which they didn't come through on because they haven't all season. Like, this team's a joke. Like, they're an absolute joke. And people who have been saying, like, punts on the season, I'm, like, starting to lean that way. The worse they play. That's why I'm very curious to see what Fletcher has to say.
Because it's kind of like, let's say they do start to play better. What's the point? Are they going to get destroyed in the playoffs? And it's like, okay, well, at least we had playoff hockey again. Like, it's not supposed to be like that anymore. It's supposed to be what's the next step was supposed to be conference finals, Stanley Cup, right? Anything less than second round was a failure. They might not make the playoffs. So it's like,
they're not going to make the playoffs. There's no chance. If they'd have to go on one, there's only 25 games left. If they've played like 35, I thought I saw games or something. I don't something around
31.
There. 31. Okay. So if there were 31 games in the season, we had the full 82 game season. I wouldn't be like they're not making. I'd be like, all right, they're really rough right now. They got to figure things out. All-Star break, whatever. And now I'm like, there's 25 games left. There is no way they're not coming out of this anytime soon. They got too many good teams they got to play. They might. Best case scenario, these next 6 games, they beat the Rangers and Buffalo, but they lose both games to the Islanders. They lose both games to Boston. Either way, they're coming out of this week 2-6. They're going to sink further in the standings. Then they're probably going to wind up playing like a team like Pitt and Washington again. Yeah. That's not going to bode well. You know what I mean? There's no way they turn shit around unless they're going on an absolute tear. And if you picked up a healthy Ryan Ellis and Ekholm and put them as our first pairing and bumped everybody else out, do you really think that would make our team suddenly just
Could you imagine if they got both?
Significant upgrade. Significant. Like, holy shit, upgrade.
I don't know what Fletcher has to lose. Like, what do you have to lose?
You think his job, but apparently that's safe. So, yeah. GMs do last longer, and I'm not all for trading AV, but the fact that nothing has happened, no trades were made, nobody's been sent down, nobody's been bought out. Gustafson, nothing is nothing. It's just status quo. That's concerning.
Yep.
So the press conference, that's the first thing we've gotten in a month and a half. I mean, they've gone like 3-7-1 in their last 10 games. That's hard in the shortened season.
I like Sean's comment here. Softies can't win. Rebuild. Right, yeah.
Like, this
crazy, man.
Absolutely ridiculous how much they don't give a shit about their own teammates, I should say.
Sean makes you want to go back into my Ron Hextall stuff here, but I don't think I will. I think there's a strong argument, but we could talk about this on tomorrow night's show since we're 36 minutes in, 37 minutes. Tune in tomorrow night, guys, if you want to hear me rant about how Ron Hextall destroyed this franchise. Well, I digress real quick.
Don't do that to me, Jimmy. No.
We'll talk about it tomorrow night. I have it on the list. Ron Hextall destroyed the Flyers. All right. Let's get it real quick. Next 4 games before we stay on too late tonight. I know we got to get up early tomorrow. 2 games with the Rangers coming up. 2 games with the Sabres coming up. What happens in these next 4 games, Jack?
I think they'd be lucky to be 2-2. I just want to double check and make sure that that's correct because I thought I saw. Yeah, you're right. Okay. Man, and then Boston and New York after that. Jesus Christ. Yeah, 2. I'll say 2. 1-1. Something's got to turn around. I
like that we're remaining positive here.
By the law of averages, they have to start winning. They could take 2 from Buffalo. That's not crazy. They could make it to overtime 1 time against the Rangers. That's probably the best lineup they could have, because the Devils embarrass the shit out of them, and the Rangers. They beat them in overtime once. As long as they don't get blown out like that, and you think they give a shit. You think they're like, hey, these guys absolutely fucking embarrassed us. Like, maybe we'll show up. Do they have any days off in between so they're not crying about how? They have a day off.
I'm gonna give my prediction real quick. If and only if the Flyers shit can someone tomorrow night, specifically Michel Therrien, they go 4-0. If they don't shit can somebody, they go 1-3. They're due for a loss against Buffalo. New York's playing very well right now. I think
you are right about that Buffalo thing. New York is playing better.
Yeah.
I think if they lose to Buffalo, I'm saying it'll be in overtime though.
Okay.
So they go 1-1. I don't know. They're gonna.
You want to pick them to win games? I know.
Max 4 or 5 points. No more than that. There's no way they get more than that. And if they only won 1 game and lost the rest in regulation, I would believe it. But do you think Fletcher's going to go on his press conference and be like, "Oh, and by the way, Therrien's fired"? Like, there's no way.
No, I think he's a bitch. I just don't like. I'm turning on Fletcher quickly here.
It's tomorrow, and we can only talk about what happens after. right now, what do you honestly think he's going to discuss, and what could he possibly say? Just off the top of your head.
I think he's going to give the whole corporate thing. We're not really happy with where they are as in terms of points and standings, but it's a process, and they're pointing in the right direction. They're move away, blah blah blah. They're going to find a way to spin things
Take them all out
positively.
of the way.
Yeah, tell everybody what they want to hear. We know we're not doing as great as we should be, but we're gonna get there. Blah blah blah. Though it's the corporate jargon, the whole bullshit, dude. They know how to talk to people. They know how to play the fans. They're taught how to play people. It's part of the deal, and we're not going to hear anything that we want to hear. There's no way.
Like, they're taught to play people, but we're all sitting there like, this is bullshit.
We're going to eat it all up. Yep.
Do this. Like, if I'm the G, just stay in your office at that point. Like, nobody cares. Like, if you're just going to give us the typical shit and say, well, I talked to you on this date, nobody's buying it. And everybody's going to freak out, and the same result's going to be the same result if it just keeps up. He's eventually going to get shit canned. Yep. At least you'd think.
We're all going to be on our phones tomorrow at work watching Chuck Fletcher. What's he going to say? What's he going to say? And it's going to be bullshit.
We're going to. That's what we're going to talk about. We're going to end up tearing him to shreds because it's going to be such stupid shit. Like, Niskanen was, we really liked him and he surprised us. Chucky knew about that since before.
Still hoping he comes back.
You're right about that. Gustafsson had a 65 points or 60-point season. That was clearly an anomaly when you look at all the other stats that he had. Really? I didn't realize that. You were in the West Coast. You would have known more than we would here in Philly.
Maybe he was trying to corner the former 60-point defenseman market there.
You saw how good that worked out.
Dude. Well,
it's gonna be brutal.
Yeah. So we're 42 minutes in. We went a little bit more than a half an hour here. That was kind of our goal. So first post game, we're working out kinks a little bit. A lot to talk about tonight. So we went a little bit overboard. Hopefully you guys enjoyed listening to us. Guys who were in the comment section. Mighty Mouse always in there. Manny, thanks again for tuning in. Mike Planko, you son of a bitch. Thanks for hanging out with us.
You know what he said, that little prick?
I saw it. I chose to ignore it. Don't respond to it. Thanks everybody for hanging out. We'll be back tomorrow night with High and Wide. Make sure you check that out. This episode will be available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, full press coverage. And I believe starting this weekend, we will be on bellyupsports.com. Make sure you guys check that out. There's some awesome other hockey pods on there. You can find everything on there, basketball, football, whatever sport you want to listen to, watch, hear people talk about. What else we got coming up, Jack? Anything good coming up? Full Circle coming out next week?
Yeah, no Full Circle this week. Steve was he was in New Mexico. I texted him. I said, "Yeah, what time?"
He's all over the place these days, man.
Yeah, he is. I was like, "What time are you available today?" He's like, "I'm in New Mexico." I'm like, "5 o'clock's off the table then." Yeah. So we'll catch up next week. It's sometimes with games like this, it's good to take a nice break and center yourself. So here's some extra bonus content because of that.
Absolutely. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll be back tomorrow night, you beauties.